If you're an entrepreneur looking to market your business on social media, there are so many things to consider. Creating a strategy from scratch can be a lot if you're new to this. You're a business owner and you're eager to start using social media for marketing, but you're unsure of what to say, what content to share, which platforms to use, and how to turn your efforts into profits. Well, you've come to the right place, because that's exactly what I want to cover in today's video. You may be missing a very important element: defining your brand. And no, I don't mean a logo, I mean the strategy capable of shaping your message and influencing your audience to choose your business over the competitors. Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs, and welcome back to our channel. I'm Sebastian Lopez, co-founder of Awake Abroad Media, a social media marketing and content creation agency. And we're on a mission to help high-level entrepreneurs like yourself leverage social media for your business. In this video, I'm going to help you nail down your brand. Why? Because clarity is key. When you define your brand, you're paving the way to use social media as a powerful marketing tool for growing your audience and generating leads. Building a robust brand might seem like a big task, but trust me, taking the time to get this clear can be a game changer for your business. So before you dive into the world of social media marketing, we're going to take a step back and focus on the number one thing that you should tackle first: defining your brand and identity. And by the end of this video, you'll have a crystal clear message and a plan to share it, helping you stand out and thrive in the world of social media. If this sounds like something you've been looking for, you are in the right place. So let's get started. So what is branding? A brand can be defined in various ways. It can be seen as the overall customer experience your business offers, starting from the moment a prospect learns about you and extending far beyond any immediate interactions. This definition encompasses several approaches, all of which aim to enhance your business's attractiveness to your target audience, setting it apart from competitors and ultimately influencing their decision-making process. In this video, we're going to define your target audience, understand your business DNA, position your brand, outline your brand personality, discuss your verbal identity, find clarity in your brand messaging, build a brand story, choose a business name and social media handle, and define your visual identity. As you can see from this list, there is a lot that goes into branding. It would be unfair to your business to equate your brand solely to a logo. So while a logo may be visually appealing and serve to identify your business, and in certain instances maybe pique some interest, it alone is insufficient to transform individuals into customers. If all you have is a logo, there is no underlying strategy to engage with your audience. Therefore, you could think of branding as a two-part ecosystem consisting of brand strategy and a brand identity. Your brand strategy focuses on how you're going to connect with your audience to influence their decision. And your brand identity, on the other hand, is the visual representation of your brand, such as your logo, your colors, fonts, image style. In other words, how your brand is represented visually. Now, your brand identity can have an influence on your audience, especially if they like what they see, but it won't turn them into customers. There needs to be a message that speaks to who they are. So it's important to synchronize your brand strategy and your brand identity for a far more powerful impact on their decision-making process. So why is branding so important, and why should you consider defining your brand before you go on social media? Well, let's imagine for a second that you choose not to put any effort into defining your brand. Your competitors will. And while you take a passive approach, your competitors are putting time and resources into understanding your audience, who they are, what drives them, what their fears are, what is it that they really want to achieve, and what problems they have that their business can solve. And if they understand all of that and you don't, then you're at a disadvantage while they strategize on how to gain more market share. So how would you stand out? Having a brand strategy will help you communicate your unique value proposition by clarifying your messaging strategy, storytelling, and your brand personality on social media and beyond. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We have tons of new content coming that I know you're going to get a lot of value from. We're a new channel, so we do appreciate your support. Now, let's move on. I've seen this mistake time and time again. An entrepreneur gets an idea for a product or service, but they don't take the time to consider exactly who they're trying to help. They believe there's a market out there for their products or service, but they haven't taken the time to understand and define their audience. Does this sound familiar? I know, I've done it. And what I've learned is that if you show up on the market with a product or service that is meant for everyone, you're most likely going to speak to no one because you're not relevant enough to a specific demographic. With that being said, as part of your brand strategy, you need to define and analyze your target audience and recognize their needs, preferences, and behaviors. And once you begin to understand what makes them tick, then you can strategize on how to appeal to them. So defining your target audience is without a doubt one of the most important aspects of the whole spectrum of branding and marketing. It's getting clear on exactly who you want to help so you can appeal to them more specifically and be more relevant to who they are. In addition to that, it's also important to understand how your competitors are targeting your audience. If you take the time to learn how your competitors are addressing them, you can find gaps in the market to position your brand with a unique value proposition. So let's begin with defining your target audience. In order for your business to attract customers, you need to understand your audience. You essentially want to understand them more than they understand themselves. To help you with this, I went ahead and took the time to create a free document for you to download and fill out. You can find it in the description below. Download it and follow along with me. So for this exercise, I want you to create 1 to 3 client avatars. A client avatar is a detailed outline of your ideal customer. So think deep. If there was one person your product or service would be perfect for, who would it be? So here's some things that you should define. Let's start off with the name, age, gender, profession, income level, location, interests, lifestyle, wants and desires, needs, struggles and challenges, pain points, what platforms they use and where they hang out, or how they use them and how they communicate. If your product or service solves more than one person's problem, feel free to repeat this exercise 2 or 3 more times. And feel free to pause this video right now so you can work through this exercise as we move along. I promise things will begin to get clearer and clearer as we go. Your brand DNA is, as the name suggests, the essence of what makes up your brand. So here's some things you need to get clear on to outline your DNA. What is your mission? What problem do you solve? What is your vision? How do you hope to achieve it? What is your purpose? Why is solving this important? And what are your values? What do you stand for and what do you stand against? Some of these things you may have already outlined as part of your business plan, but let's take a moment to work through them in the context of defining your brand. If you're following with me with the worksheet, you can simply fill in the blanks. Being intentional with these answers will help guide your decisions and actions, such as what direction your brand is going, your commitments to it, and what values you will uphold or reject as you move forward marketing it on social media. So your DNA should serve as an internal guidepost to help you and your team members make the right decisions so that your brand stays on track in terms of where you want your brand to go and what perception you want to create in the market. So it's really important for you and anyone working alongside you to understand your brand DNA and know how to uphold it so you can build a powerful and concise brand identity. And trust me, you don't want to make the same mistake that Bud Light did by sharing a message that's misaligned with your audience. Having a product or service that the market wants is great, but if it's the exact same as your competitors, it's not great. Your competitors already have a head start, so you're not providing your audience any unique value. So what you need to do is understand what your competitors are offering your audience, and then look at gaps and opportunities as to what your audience wants that they're not getting from the current options in the market. This is how you define your unique value proposition, differentiating yourself from your competitors and establishing your position in the market. We do this by performing what we call a SWOT analysis, and it really just is learning about your competitors' strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, so that you can show up in the market with unique alternatives to what's already out there. I included this section in the worksheet as well, so you can use it to study your competitors. So take a few minutes to study your competitors and try to find specific gaps in the market. Once you do, you can then propose your solution as something uniquely different to what's already out there. And if you do a good job of marketing it, your audience will turn their attention towards you. I'll also mention your presence doesn't need to be disruptive. However, some of the most successful businesses out there are. So don't stop this process of analyzing your competitors until you are convinced you can position yourself as offering something so good that it would be dumb to say no to. And if you want to learn more about crafting an offer and positioning your brand, I highly recommend you check out Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers. Have any of you gone out with a hot date and then found out they have no personality? As humans, we need to feel drawn to continue giving our attention beyond the first impression. And in a busy marketplace, a brand personality is a great way to keep the attention on us. Let's say you have a beautiful looking feed and a nice logo. And when someone arrives to your page, your message is bland. Well, it shouldn't be. Now, believe it or not, brands do have personalities, and you almost have to see it as the brand is representing a person who your customer interacts with. So by now, you should clearly know who you're talking to and what their needs are, as well as how to position your brand to attract them to your business. It's time to outline your brand personality. Is your brand personality bold, timid, rude, positive, formal and corporate, or personal and casual? And this goes back to understanding who your audience is, not just what they want, but also what are their personal quality traits? When you really understand that, you can understand how to show up and attract customers. To help you with this, refer back to the client avatars we created and fill in more details about your ideal customer and what personality traits they find appealing. Then write down 3 traits that you like your personality to feel like. Use those to guide you on how you communicate across every channel. You're going to need to incorporate this personality into your writing, your colors, your images, and that unique brand personality will help draw in and retain your audience. Naturally, the next pillar we're going to discuss is your verbal identity. Now, we just touched on your brand personality, so your verbal identity is essentially an extension of your brand personality. Verbal identity refers to the way your brand speaks to your audience and the tone of voice it's going to be using. I'm referring to your verbal identity in regards to everything multimedia, from still images, videos, podcasts, reels, stories, blogs, so on and so forth. So really think about, are you going to be more energetic and edgy, serious and aggressive, or are you going to sound a bit more chilled out and softer in how you communicate with your audience? So really try and humanize it and think how we as people connect with other people. In order to be well received, you need to talk in a manner that your audience is receptive to. Try to understand this about yourself and your own life and the people that you're attracted to. How do you talk to them? How does your voice change if you're talking to a client versus a friend, your children versus your father? Believe it or not, but the etiquette of our verbal language has implications on how well we are received by the people we address. Once you understand this, then you can start to understand how your brand can use verbal identity to attract customers. This is why understanding your audience is so critical to your brand strategy. Now let's talk about your brand messaging. This is probably one of the most impactful tools at your disposal and one that a lot of business owners miss. They put all this focus and time into the logo and their appearance on Instagram and Facebook, but put very little emphasis on the messaging behind it. This may be why you encounter so much hardship when you're trying to figure out what to say. I want to be clear. I'm not just talking about copywriting here, but rather the full spectrum of communication between your business and your customers. So I want you to take a moment and define exactly what you want to say to your audience. What is your message? How can you break it down for your audience to understand? And how will you present it? We'll get more into social media marketing strategy in another video, but for now, I want you to think about the following questions. What matters most to your ideal customer when they're deciding between one company and another to solve their problem? What is it that they're in need of? And what signs will lead them to believe that you have what they need? Give it some thought. And remember, this goes hand in hand with your brand personality. The message that you put out there is what you're going to say, and the personality and the verbal identity is how you're going to say them. So understanding what you want to say is super critical in influencing how your audience perceives your business. This next pillar is your story. Now, you may start thinking your brand story is something about who you are, where you come from, and where you're going. But that's not what I mean by your brand story. I'm sorry to break it to you, but your customers don't care all that much about who you are. I know this may suck to hear, but hear me out. Building a brand is not about you. It's about your customer, and you are simply here to serve. So you need to tell your customers their story. This is going to show them that you understand their problems and qualify you as someone who may be able to solve them. So how do you write it out? Don't worry, I'm going to show you how. And then I'm going to give you a few ways in which you can build out your story. And for this, I'm going to borrow from Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Now you can follow along with your worksheet. Picture this. A character, your client, has a problem, which is the problem that you solve, and meets a guide, who is you, who gives them a plan, which is your product or service, and calls them to action, which is your call to action. And it results in success or failure. And to tell this story, you need to stick to your role as a guide. As a guide, you should have two main traits: empathy for your customers and authority in guiding them through their challenges. Now, what's empathy? Empathy is knowing their problems and understanding them. In authority, you have the experience and know-how to help them overcome their problem and get what they want. So when you tell the story, it's not about you, it's about your customer. And your role is helping them get what they want. But you may be thinking, how do I share my story then? Well, great question. I want to tell you how you can incorporate your personal story into the stories that you tell. In order to do this, you need to understand the three types of problems that we all face. The first one is external, which is the most obvious but not the main driver. Then there's internal problems, which are the emotions that drive the decision-making process. And lastly, there's philosophical problems, what people believe about the problem that they're facing, or like the shoulds or shouldn'ts. Just have to remember that people buy external solutions for internal problems, and people remember stories more than they remember facts. So in other words, you need to identify their internal problem and explore what failures they will encounter if they don't take action. Just be sure not to exploit this. Instead, leverage empathy to provide a genuine customer experience. It's easy to fearmonger people into taking action, but it's far more powerful if the success that you communicate overpowers the option of using fear. So remember, don't lead with authority. Lead with empathy, and you will build authority. So as promised, here are some ways that you can share your customer story with them. Share testimonials, talk about case studies, offer mind-shifting value, and help them see what's possible through you. Focus on benefits, not features. Tell your story and the hardships that you've encountered and how you overcame them. And some of the tools you can use on social media include carousels that develop a train of thought, static image posts with value-packed captions, Instagram highlights, Facebook stories, engaging TikToks, and a lot more. If you're able to make that emotional connection by telling a story that aligns with who your audience is and the journey that they're on, where they come from, where they're going, the challenges they're having along the way, then you're on the right track. These are the kinds of stories that draw them in. Think about when you sit down and read a book. Do you sometimes relate to the hero's journey? If your brand stories align with the journey your customers are on, they're going to be drawn to you because you understand their journey. So sharing a little about you is great, but you really want to focus on your audience and their story by weaving it into the stories that you tell and the messages that you share. Let's say that you offer a product or service that you have personally used to achieve your transformation, the same transformation that your customers want. If this is the case, then you should thoroughly understand your audience's pain points. For example, let's say you're now a fitness trainer who used to struggle with diet and weight loss, but somehow you managed to turn your life around. Having struggled with diet and weight loss, your journey shares the same hardships as your audience, so you should understand the pain points that they encounter. You can incorporate your story on how you overcame those problems, and it will help you build authority in your audience. And if you're a corporate brand, the same rules apply. Think of Coca-Cola. If you look at their ads, you'll notice that there's usually a character who is struggling with thirst. Then somehow they encounter Coca-Cola, and after drinking it, they feel refreshed. So I hope that you can start to see how it's not the best product, but the best story that gets the sale. This is why branding and storytelling are so important in the marketplace. And then obviously you have to figure out your business name and your social media handle. I'm joking, it's actually not that obvious. I'm sure most of you have started off with a name, but if you've been following along, you may start to see why choosing a name isn't your top priority. Your business name is more than just a name. It's a strategic tool. It tells your audience who you are and what you're about. And on social media, this translates to your handle, which should be the same or very similar to your business name. So if you do this prematurely, then you're not taking advantage of everything that we've discussed so far. When you think about all the aspects of your brand, coming up with a brand name and a handle after you define your brand strategy really works better because it helps lock in that position. So this is really one of the most important parts of branding. Because on social media, when your audience sees your social media handle, It tells them quickly what you're all about and what you can potentially do for them. So choosing a social media handle that's aligned with your position in the market and the position that you're trying to own, as well as the message that you're trying to get across to your audience, is really important. So if you've already opened up all your social media accounts, you may be making a mistake that most entrepreneurs make. And that really is for you to decide. Be honest with yourself. Does your handle serve your brand? And last but not least, you have your visual identity. And I hope you can think about all the elements that we've considered up to this point and why this is last on our list. By now, we've defined your target audience, your positioning, your unique value, your brand's personality traits, and the message that you want to share. You now have all these tools at your disposal to hire someone to design your visual identity. Think of how much this is going to help your designer create an impactful visual identity for you, and how much of an impact a carefully crafted identity is going to have on your audience. And if hiring someone is not an option for you, or you like to do this yourself, you now have enough information to make informed decisions with intention and purpose. So what colors will you use? What fonts will you choose to represent your tone of voice? How will your brand be presented? What visual effects, transitions, and sound effects will you use? If all this seems too overwhelming to do for yourself, I do suggest that you find a brand strategist and a graphic designer who are experienced in building brand identities. I have personally tried to design my own brands in the past, and I have to say it's not easy. In times like these, it's sometimes just better to hire an expert so you can benefit the most from your brand. And that's a wrap. In this video, we learned how to go from not having any idea what to say to having a strong understanding of your brand strategy and the ingredients to build an effective visual identity. I hope this video has provided you some perspective on how you can build your brand. And now you are ready to leverage it across all your marketing and social media to grow your business. As we discussed, defining your brand comes down to understanding all these different points and then combining them together in a way in which is going to attract your customers to your business. And if you do it really well, you will manage to build a customer loyalty in the marketplace. If you're an established business, but you're struggling to cut through the noise and to scale, maybe it's a sign to revisit some old decisions and outline your brand strategy a little bit more. Maybe it's time to change a few things or even hire some expert help. Your business will thank you later. At Awake Abroad Media, we help you leverage social media by creating high-converting strategy, content, and managing your online presence. If you feel like your social media needs some expert help, book a free consultation on our website. You can find the link in the description below. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So drop a comment below and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more valuable content. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram for more tips on utilizing social media for your business. All the links will be in the description box below. And I will see you in the next video.